October 12, 2000, Eddie Lee Sexton v. State of Florida, Supreme Court of Florida. Conviction and death sentence affirmed. Appellant documents state that Eddie Sexton's criminal trial was continued until August 1998 after the appeals court in 97 remanded the case back to the local court because testimony about the abuse of his children needlessly inflamed the jury. After the second trial, Eddie Lee Sexton was found guilty and sentenced to death again on November 18, 1998. The Supreme Court of Florida affirmed the conviction and death sentence on October 12, 2000. Eddie Sexton was convicted and sentenced to death for the participation in the murder of his son-in-law, Joel Good. Joel was murdered by Sexton's 22-year-old son, Willie Sexton, who strangled him to death under his father's direction. Willie Sexton testified against his father in exchange for his guilty plea to second-degree murder. The court noted Sexton moved to Florida in 1993 with his family and the victim to avoid arrest and to prevent authorities in Ohio from removing his children from the home. His infant grandchild, who was the son of the victim, and his daughter died under suspicious circumstances. Sexton objected to the testimony of 5 of his daughters as cited in the appellate opinion that he beat them, conducted marriage ceremonies with his daughters, had regular sex with them, and fathered several of their children, encouraged his children to have sex with each other, made his sons compare penis size and ridiculed them, practiced Satanism and engaged in other bizarre conduct, threatened his children if they discussed family matters with others, trained his children how to kill FBI agents, engaged in the standoff of police in Ohio shortly before coming to Florida, and fled to Florida to prevent his children from being taken into custody, and directed the killing of his infant grandchild. The state's proposed motive for the killing was that Sexton's son-in-law knew Sexton was the father of his own grandchildren. The prosecution wanted prior bad acts admitted to show the control this man had over his children. The appeals court thought this testimony needlessly inflamed the jury and so ordered a new trial. News reports state that during the second trial, his son Willie Sexton said his father convinced him that he had satanic powers and sexually abused him. He also stated that he was tied up to his bed at night when he was a child, and his father gave coins to the other children to call home if anyone spoke about the abuse. Sherry Sexton, daughter of Eddie Lee Sexton, discussed seances held in the home. She told news reporters that her dead cat was placed on the table and, quote, "My dad had all of us go around the table holding hands. He was talking weird. He was saying he was Satan. He kept asking us to give our souls to him, to follow him to Satan." Eddie Lee Sexton had been ordained by mail order at one time and had filed incorporation papers for a Calvary Church of God. Mr. Sexton's own father was a Free Will Baptist preacher. See Children Tell Life of Incest and Violence, Beacon Journal, February 6, 1994, and Court Revisits Murder Case Son's Fears, St. Petersburg Times, September 2, 1998. Eddie Lee Sexton is the husband of Estella Sexton, whose case is described next. March 9, 1998, State of Ohio v. Estella Sexton, Court of Appeals of Ohio, 5th Appellate District, Stark County, convictions for the complicity to rape, felonious sexual penetration, gross sexual imposition, complicity to gross sexual imposition, and child endangerment affirmed. Overview. Appellate documents state that in 1992, April, Michelle, who was one of Estella Sexton's daughters, alleged that their father, Eddie Sexton, was molesting the 3 oldest daughters. There were 12 children in the family. DHS took 6 of the children into custody, but 3 of the children returned to the mother under the agreement that she would keep the children away from the father. In December 1992, Mrs. Sexton fled Ohio with the 3 children and reunited with Mr. Sexton at a hotel in Kentucky. January 14, 1994, Appellant and Eddie Sexton were arrested in Hillsborough County, Florida. The 3 children were returned to the custody of DHS. While living in Jackson Township and in the camper in Hillsborough County, Florida, the appellant and her husband perpetrated acts of sexual, physical, and mental abuse against all of the children. While living in Jackson Township, Kim, Lana, and Michelle were forced to participate in a wedding ceremony with their father. During the ceremony, Eddie engaged in a French kiss with the girls, and the mother was present and took pictures of the ceremony. The court writes, in the camper in Florida, Appellant and Eddie gave Kim and Chris little red pills and NyQuil to ingest every evening despite the fact that neither had a cold. On one occasion, Kim did not ingest the medicine and saw Appellant fondling Chris's penis while he was asleep. The mother and father inflicted shaving rituals on the girls. While living in Jackson Township, Lana and Michelle were forced to experience a similar shaving ritual. Lana was taken into the bedroom for the purpose of punishment. Once inside the room, the mother held Lana down while Eddie shaved her entire body with a razor. He cut her, put blood on her finger, and made her sign a paper saying that she was selling her soul to the devil. During the shaving, both the appellant and Eddie Sexton fondled Michelle's vaginal area. Chris received beatings from both appellant and Eddie Sexton. He would beat Chris once or twice a week while appellant guarded the door. The beatings would often leave bruises. Appellant and Mr. Sexton also punished Chris by having him stand against the wall for 5 to 6 hours holding a penny against the wall with his nose. During the punishment, Chris was not permitted to go to the bathroom. At age 12, Chris was forced to participate in weekend parties involving family members in which he was given beer to drink. According to Ohio, Appellant Estella Sexton, February 13, 1995, one of the children stated the family members were involved in satanic rituals, invoking spirits and baby thingies and things like that. We will hold hands. It mostly takes place after my grandmother died. They will bring her spirit back. Sometimes they bring devils back. They come out of the table and you see them floating around the room. We all hold hands while it's happening. This testimony regarding satanic ritual was found by the court to be relevant in the proceedings.